Penguins.
What about them?
You said 3, 2, 1. That's where my mind went to.
Mm.
I like penguins. They're cool.
Yet another fascinating journey into the inner workings of Leslie's mind.
It's pretty accurate. Oh, goodness. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Leslie. How are you?
I'm back. Again, these people can't be rid of me yet, so I'm okay.
Oh, I'm back, too. And they were rid of me for a while, though they don't really know that.
Do they really know anything?
I was in Canada.
Canada land. Did you have some
Canada
poutine?
land. I did. I managed to do that. Here's the receipt for it right here.
Gross.
You're in Canada. You have to try these things.
I know, and someday I'll probably try poutine, but the gravy on fries, man.
Look, it's not about the gravy on fries. The gravy on fries is just a medium of conveyance for the cheese curd.
I was about to say, for the cheese curds, which I've had good cheese curds and I've had bad cheese curds. So I guess, there's no reason I shouldn't try it, other than if I tried it in Pennsylvania, I would be laughed out of Canada if I ever actually went to visit. So.
I would suggest probably the thing you want to do is avoid getting the packet mixed gravy. You know what I mean?
Well, considering the only gravy that really makes its way into my life is either metaphorical or just turkey drippings gravy on Thanksgiving, I think I'll avoid packet mixed.
That's right. You're not a saucist.
Or I am a saucist.
Well, you are not one who engages in the saucing of things.
Not typically, no. No. Ordering a salad anywhere, they're like, what dressing do you... Nothing. You sure? Yeah, I'm good.
What a strange creature you are.
Hey, it means that I have healthier salads than most people.
Sure. Okay. Go with that.
That health doesn't carry over basically anywhere else in my diet, but there we go.
As soon as you have a donut, you're done.
Why did you mention donuts?
I don't know. I'm working on 3 or 4 hours. I can't remember which now. 3 or 4 hours worth of sleep. I don't know about you. I just flew in last night and boy, are my arms tired. But then so is that joke. So there you are.
Well, your arms might be legitimately tired if you just flew in. You were carrying luggage, right?
No.
Oh.
No, I fooled them all. I refused to pay Alaska Airlines the $75 for the bag that was half an ounce or 6 ounces or something overweight. So I shipped it via UPS. It arrives later today. Did you know up to 100 pounds is cheaper to do by UPS ground? It's true.
I do now. And it's not USPS, so it should be better off for you.
That's right. See, that or my entire wardrobe has now disappeared. But since I looked this morning already and it's already in town somewhere just waiting to be delivered, that's I think we're okay.
Just wait till it ends up in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that goes back to the USPS. Sorry.
Right. That's the thing that I did. We will talk about that more later with what's his name? That other guy that hangs out on the show sometimes and says things. Can't remember.
I don't know, but that guy's so angry.
Been so long since I've seen or talked to anybody. Anyway, I had a good time in spite of myself.
Well, that's good. So, I'm glad you didn't let yourself ruin it for you.
That's right. I had to keep a close eye on myself to make sure I wasn't ruining it for me.
And that's your show, folks.
That's my show. We're done.
Brian's had less than a handful of hours of sleep, and I'm just me.
We were. There was a thing we were supposed to do over this last month.
I've completed this month's assignment.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So tell me, what was the assignment? What were we supposed to do, and how did we end up in this terrible, terrible mess?
Well, I will not speak for your terrible, terrible mess. But so forever ago, some dude named Brandon Sanderson wrote a book, and then he wrote another book, and the other book was called Mistborn, and people loved it. And then down the road, this dude started a show with this other dude, and they decided we should do reading. But then one couldn't do the reading because of life, and the other one's like, we'll take suggestions and keep doing the reading anyway. And then he got a suggestion for Mistborn. And I believe he got another suggestion for Mistborn. And some chick got dragged into this, and she also had Mistborn suggested. So it fell together that eventually Mistborn was agreed upon to do reading for the thing.
So what you're saying for the people at home who don't follow hockey is that we read Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. It's a #1 New York Times best-selling author type book.
To be fair, no, that's actually entirely accurate. Everything that was just said. I can't speak for the tonality in which it was said, but that is all statement of fact.
This is, I am told, this Mistborn book, I'm told, is the single greatest fantasy adventure book written in the last 30 years, maybe?
I can't say I've heard that, but I know people that would say things similar.
It's clearly the greatest book of all time.
It's
clearly the greatest book of all time. At least since 2006.
I can't say that I've read a lot of. Hold on, I've got to look something up real quick. Let me delve into the Rolodex of my mind. Ignore the typing sounds. That's just the Rolodex going.
Right. We know how that works.
Aha! I think you would find yourself heavily contested on saying since 2006.
Really?
Yes, because Name of the Wind was published in 2007, and that one I hear more people cry best than Mistborn.
Okay.
Although at the same time, I know more people that read Mistborn and Sanderson than Name of the Wind and Rothfuss.
Whatever.
Brian didn't want to read this book, folks.
Would you please summarize this book for the people at home who may not somehow know what this book is about? Like perhaps they haven't actually ever read the book and have no intention of ever doing so. Maybe you would like to summarize it for them.
Okay. So main character, lead-in, is a young lady who is an urchin / thief / tool of a thieves group who has a mysterious luck ability. Things go awry, but then she is drafted by slightly better thieves group, and she becomes part of their plans. I'm going to be honest, this is a really chaotic book. I don't know how to summarize it. But there is an evil overlord, and the thieves group is working with the put upon masses to overthrow said overlord, and they all use a magic called allomancy.
What's that?
Lots of murder and class betrayal and heistiness.
All right, hang on here. I feel like you're leaving us behind somewhere.
I feel like I don't know how to summarize this book because a lot happens.
What is allomancy? Let's start there.
Okay, we'll start with the magic. The magic system, which I'm not going to have you contest that right now. I'm just going to use the term and you can deal with it. The magic system is called allomancy. It is a system in which certain people born with the ability can ingest metals to exert control over certain aspects internally and externally, either upon themselves, upon other metals, or upon other people.
Such as, and for example?
I'm going to get all of the properties wrong, so I'm just going to say there's a metal that can help you boost your physical capacity for strength and endurance. There's one that lets you calm people down, one that lets you rile people up. There's one that lets you pull metal towards yourself, and one that lets you push metal away from yourself. Actually, there's one for each of these guys. And then there's a couple of mysterious ones that don't really make a whole lot of sense until you read them in the context of what's going on in the book.
Oh, okay.
Including ones that are just weird.
Little Miss Protagonist has one of these things that she can do.
Little Miss Protagonist is one of the very special people, and I'm not going to call this a spoiler because you do find this out within relatively the beginning of the book. Little Miss Protagonist can do all of them. That means she's not just special, she's super special.
Oh.
Most people who can use allomancy can only use one metal.
But she can do all of them?
Yes, she is what is called a Mistborn.
Oh.
But she should
hence
not
the title.
be a Mistborn because she's an urchin, and only fancy aristocrat people are supposed to be able to do it.
Right.
She's a whoopsie in a fancy aristocrat's past.
Is this one of those things where she has a mysterious background that nobody's quite sure about? Like, we're not entirely certain who her parents might have been?
She does smack of the mysterious background, yes.
Ah, okay.
However, only for part of the book.
Okay. Well, that's weird, because the book you've just summed up is not the book I read. Not the book I finished reading. I don't know what book you read. But the one I finished reading is actually about a guy who's on the run from Los Angeles back to his native Wales, his native Scotland, excuse me. And he
I would say
basically,
same difference, but I don't want to be massacred.
Yeah, don't be massacred. But he ends up basically first day back stumbling into the middle of a murder, which he then feels compelled to in some way solve, because he is what you would call an investigative journalist, and it is his job to sort of be nosy and solve things and find evidence and that kind of stuff. But he ends up, as you might expect, way over his head.
Yeah, and like journalists do.
Yeah. The first sign of this is, in fact, the murder itself, in which the victim of the murder is missing 2 fingers and his nose. And there's a third. His index fingers.
Oh. Okay.
And there's a third finger nearby the location. And also there is a nasty surprise left on the mantelpiece, which I won't explain. And
this whole thing sounds like a nasty surprise.
It is a nasty surprise as things go. And it has to do with the NHS and whatnot, and a plot by somebody to make a whole bunch of money by treating people's lives rather cheaply. Okay,
Brian, I want you to do me a huge favor.
Uh-huh.
Can you look at this book and tell me what the cover looks like?
It is sort of a seafoam green with large kind of jaggy looking letters on it. Some are a deep purple, some are a nice bright white, and then there's a streak of blood running down one side of it.
In the illustration, or is it actually blood, and do I need to call the police?
No, it's just an illustration.
Okay, cool. Can you tell me what the jaggy writing says?
Yes.
Because I think I've eyeballed a fundamental problem in the conversation.
It says "Quite Ugly One Morning" by Christopher Brookmeyer.
Okay.
Is that not an alternate title for Mistborn?
You know what? I don't think it is. I think that might be what one would call a completely different book.
Oh, that's going to be a problem then.
No, I'm pretty interested to hear what happened with this nasty surprise, though.
No, I can't tell you.
Dadgummit.
It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate for our show.
Oh. Censorship. Okay.
I am not kidding. It is not appropriate for the show.
Okay, so Leslie's going to mark off that alternate reading.
Well, I liked it. It was a good book. I finished it all the way through to the end. Unlike other books I could name.
I'm guessing that other books you could name would include the one that was homework.
You say that like it was required that I finish the book.
I don't think it was required so much as thoroughly encouraged, given the context and main conceit of our conversation parts of this podcast, but it was expected, at least.
I mean, okay, all right, okay. So to be fair, this book did have a beginning, a middle, and end, just like Mistborn kind of does. But it managed to accomplish it in like 312 pages, and I feel like that accomplishment should be rewarded. That is
just over half the length of the copy of Mistborn I had, at least.
Is it? Because the copy I've got is, let me see here, not including the Ars Arcanum in the back, just at 659 pages.
Mine
which I feel is like 400 and some odd pages too many.
611.
Yours was 611. That's nice. That's nice.
Mine had
that also is
smaller font than yours, pages. I guess.
I guess so. That is 400 pages too many.
See,
I can tell you exactly which 400 pages need to go. All the ones in the first half of the book, because they're terribly, terribly dull.
So how far did you finally end up making it?
Let me see what my exact actual number was here. I have a resource that allows me to do that, so I don't have to keep it in mind the whole time. My actual number
called a bookmark?
No.
You used the magic of the digital, didn't you?
Technological
Still a bookmark.
Wonder. 238 pages in.
Yeah, so I feel like you really can't say and call for the first 400.
No, I can, because that gets us closer to the end of the book.
But you don't know what was in those 162 pages to the end of the first 400.
Can I guess?
You could, but I wouldn't be able to tell you because it just kind of blended together.
I want to guess though. I want to say that in the first 400 pages of the book, she goes to the party. She has a trial by fire, more or less, at the party, and ends up despondent once again. And then they spend another 150 pages planning the next step.
No, actually, but okay.
Oh, good. All right.
So Brian, would you like to tell everybody what you thought in one sentence? Okay. One sound effect works too. I don't know if you're picking up on this, readers, listeners, and everybody in between. Brian was not a fan of Mistborn.
I was not.
I don't know when the complaints began, but they definitely grew quite emphatic around the 200-page mark.
Mm-hmm.
I did finish the book.
Good.
I will not. Okay. So I like Sanderson. I like what I've experienced Sanderson by and large, for the most part, within reason. This book, being a heist, requires a fair amount of setup, but the setup is too much. There's so much. Just no.
They were still planning things.
They're still preparing.
35 pages into this book. And that is like the second part of the book, because this thing's divided into like, what is it, 6 parts or 7 parts or 100 parts,
something like that. There's chapters and then there's parts or books.
They were into the second part and they were still just planning things. And by the time they got to the ball that she's supposed to, the Vin is the protagonist in this book. Gosh, she's exciting. By the time they got to the ball with her, I had stopped caring 100 and some odd pages ago. Just didn't care at all. I failed, readers. I failed. I've only ever failed to read one other book that I ever said and guaranteed I was going to read at any point, and that was Gone with the Wind. And I would put this book right up there with Gone with the Wind.
I'm really curious to actually have you read Name of the Wind.
No.
No, I wouldn't. No. I'm fine with it never being part of the show. I did not care for it. And I actually had a similar problem with this book that I did with Name of the Wind, where I did not care about my main character. Vin is boring, guys. I'm sorry. I did not enjoy her as a character. She felt very flat and boring and tropey. And the people that I wanted to learn more about were very much side and background characters. And by the way, one of them was not Kelsier. I was not really impressed by him either.
No.
So, I've completed the reading. Brian has not completed the reading. My opinion is still, I think, slightly higher than his. But
it would be hard not to be.
Yeah. I'd rather just read Elantris. I love Rithmatist. Those are the Sanderson books that I would recommend. Alcatraz to a certain extent, but it got a little tired after like book 3. It's kids' books, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry if this disappoints you in some way, listener, but I couldn't. I just absolutely hit a stopping point and went like, I'm done with this book. This book is nothing to me anymore. Kelsey, what is it? Kelsey, is that how we're deciding to pronounce that?
I know that my pronunciations are probably across the board wrong, but I pronounced it Kelsier in my head. I pronounced it Sazed because I tend to soften things. So instead of Sazed.
Okay.
Alend Ham. That's a name we can probably agree on pronunciation. Is
sure.
Ham.
Sure. We're good with that. Yeah, Kelsier is for as far as I read, okay, and you can correct me if this turns out to be wrong. For as far as I've read, all his real problems are well behind him, because I am not convinced by anything I've read in the book that the plan they're going with, taking, staging a coup and all that good stuff. I am not convinced by anything I saw in the book up to page 238 that it was going to be difficult. There was no evidence of that at all. And you're going to jump up and down and you're going to tell me, no. Those guys with the metal spikes instead of eyes, those guys are hardcore badasses. And look, they wiped out that entire thieves' den. Yes, they went in, they wiped out that entire incompetent, poorly led, really just even disorganized thieves' guild. That does not convince me they are a threat to anybody except to other poorly led, poorly organized thieves' guilds, perhaps, maybe. So, and then you're going to tell me, oh, this emperor is immortal, or maybe he's not immortal, or maybe he is immortal. I don't know. I didn't get to the end of the book. Don't care. Still not convinced he's a problem. Okay. Yeah. He had Kelsier had that fight with those one guys in the mansion or whatever. When he went out and did all the jumping around and the flinging of the brick back and forth and all that stuff, and whoop-de-poop-de, that only convinced me that this guy was not going to face any difficulties. Accurate, inaccurate, don't know, don't care. How about you?
I just thought he was annoying.
Okay.
It is, I would say it is in the end inaccurate, but the problem is you couldn't get there, and that is the problem. This book is a heist, so you have to get into the action, you start rolling, but there was so much backstory and so much preparation you needed before you could get into where everything happens. And there's a running gag where Brandon Sanderson's books are heavily founded. Like, he puts lots and lots of stuff in to build you up to this point, and then everything collapses in a headlong rush to the very end. The Sanderson Avalanche, or Sanderlet, I don't remember how Greg tried to pronounce it. I'm surrounded by a number of people in my life that love Sanderson, and this book ranks really high. But I was not convinced. I, for the most part, did not really enjoy reading until it got to the point where things were starting to happen, because I did not find Vin to be an interesting character enough to invest in.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin in my litany of difficulties with her. Brandon Sanderson appears to have created the Mary Sue that he needed in Vin. In the part of the story I've read, okay, nothing bad happened to her in the first 238 pages. A lot had previously happened to her that was bad, but that only existed to help explain her character as we find it. And as I found it, it was like, as you were saying, pretty stereotypical, pretty tropey. I would even go so far as to say unimaginative. Now, here's the thing. As I was reading this book, I began asking questions about certain aspects of it on the social medias, right? Because the social medias is where people talk about things like books and whatnot, and their favorite books and that kind of stuff. So I thought, I'll throw it up there and see what happens. In every instance where I asked a question, you know what I was told? Wait for the later books.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get to those later books.
That's fair.
Never going to happen. If you want me to understand something, if you want me to appreciate something, then it needs to be in the book in which it is introduced, unless you go to the effort to make it a major overarching plot for the whole series, which in 238 pages was not done.
Okay, so what was your question that they told you to wait for the later books?
Well, it was like 3 weeks ago. My first one was, okay, why does everybody say this is just a brilliant magic system? I have seen no evidence of a system at all. Okay. There's no system. Sure, they eat the metal, they swallow the metal, whatever, and then they burn the metal, and then the metal makes things happen. How and why? Is it ever explained in the book? Apparently not, because I was told to wait till later books. The problem with that is there's no setup for any of this. There's nothing that makes you think this is going to be something that you need to keep waiting on books and books and books to find out about, because as it's used in the first book, it is merely a plot device to make things happen.
So your issue with the magic system is that it's not explained.
That it's not a system. There's nothing there for it to be a system for.
So would you be less upset if people didn't call it a system?
No, because that was just a question I had. It was like, what is so great about this magic system? Well, there's nothing in evidence. Wait till later books. Well, that doesn't work. Okay. I think a lot of the rest of my questions were just about the way he was using some of the characters, I think. Because it felt to me like you've ever read a Doc Savage novel?
I think I literally read Doc Savage, Man of Bronze.
Excellent. That's a good place to start.
400 years ago. I don't think I still own it.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. In a Doc Savage novel, and it's pure pulp adventure. Okay. But in a Doc Savage novel, you have Doc Savage, who is the every specialty genius guy. Okay. He is literally the guy who is there to be infallible. All right. He knows everything about everything. He's a genius. He's also physically powerful and imposing. And he is essentially flawless within his novels. Okay. Even so, the reason he is that way is because it ups the ante for everything else that happens to him, the actual adventures in the books. Okay. If you can somehow challenge Doc Savage, then you are an actual world-class threat. All right. Which makes everything in the plot important just by virtue of the fact that you're able to challenge Doc Savage. Okay. In order that Doc Savage not look like a complete putz all the time, he has a number of friends with him. Okay. And each of them is a genius in their specialty. There's the electronics guy, there's the mechanics guy. They're the sort of engineers to his science brain. Okay. There's a lawyer, there's all kinds of stuff. All right. They are his assistants and friends. All right. Now, this is the vibe I was getting from Kelsier. Okay. I felt like he was sort of meant to be the Doc Savage character. And then and like any good caper movie, he assembles his friends that he needs to have help him, right? Each one a master of their particular specialty. In this case, a master of their particular brand of allomancy. At no point did anything arise which made me feel as if it was a credible, viable threat to Kelsier that required him to be involved and that required him to use all his friends. A lot of words were spent on trying to convince me that that was the case. About 253 pages worth of words were spent trying to convince me that that was the case. But I was never shown anything that said that would be the case. And one of the things you have to do when you write a novel is show, don't tell.
And you know what? I will 100% agree with you that this book is tell.
Everything I read was tell. There was the opening scene with Kelsier in the little village with the peasants and whatnot, where he had the conversation that sent him to the Lord's Manor or whatever it was. But then that ended, and we never saw anything because it all happened off screen. And then we come back to the book proper, and we're told what happened. And it was kind of at that point I realized that the book was going to be a problem for me. And this continued to happen. When the thieves are killed, that's all off screen. We're told about it. When they get followed out of the ministry, when Vin is followed out of the ministry by the guy with the steel spikes in his head, Kelsier and his friend do something to distract the guy, to get him off the scent or off the track. But again, we're told about it, not shown it. And this book is, like I said, 400 pages too long because we spend at least 238 pages of it telling people about what's going on instead of showing people what's going on. And for me, it was a very slow, frustrating, and inept read. Okay. I don't know where in Sanderson's career this book comes. Okay.
Second.
I don't know, first, second. It's a second written book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I liked his first, World's Better.
Okay. But this reads like a guy who didn't know what bits to cut. So all the bits are in there, whether they belong in there or not, and I assume the first book was extremely successful.
I think so. I mean, it was the first one I read, but that doesn't always mean anything.
Well, he was done a disservice by his editor or the editorial staff of his publisher. Okay. Because they did not at any point pull him aside and apparently pull him aside. Obviously, I don't know what was actually said and say, hey, Brandon, it feels like there's about 400 pages in here we could do without. They don't move the plot forward at all. In fact, they just sit there and circle the plot over and over and over and over and over. In fact, they're plotting about the plot. Maybe a little less of that, Brandon. Maybe cut some of that out. Get on to the parts where things are actually happening and the plot is being moved by the actions of the characters in your novel, rather than just telling us they moved because somebody maybe went and did something somewhere. That's my problem with the book. And that's why I stopped reading it. I couldn't. There was nothing going on in the book that I was interested in anymore by page 238 or whatever it is. And I'm sorry if you like Mistborn, you're allowed to like it. That's fine. I don't care that you like it or that you don't like it. I just know that Mistborn is not a book I have any desire to complete reading, let alone read any of the rest of the series, even if I had completed it. I literally had to give it up about halfway through the month and read absolutely anything else. Okay. And that's why I ended up with Quite Ugly One Morning, which turns out to be a very fine detective novel, if a bit gory and over the top. It is at least fun and amusing in the way it goes about that sort of thing. And then I went back to Tom Holt, which I had all but given up on. And it turns out I gave up one book too early because this one, Blonde Bombshell, is the one where he finally decides to abandon the previous structure of his last 34 novels and write something a little different. But I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not sure if it's all going to hold together. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you can find Quite Ugly One Morning and you kind of like the noir, over the top noir style, but not really noir style. I mean, in terms of its pacing and action and whatnot, Quite Ugly One Morning is an excellent book to read, by Christopher Brookmeyer. So do that instead. Go read that would be my recommendation. You may have the floor.
I agree that the book was 90% telling, not showing. I didn't like Vin. I was indifferent to Kelsier. I would compare him more likely to Nate from Leverage, in that he's like Nate on I want to say on drugs, because at one point, the whole point of Nate is that he's an alcoholic and he struggles with alcoholism. But, so it's powered up Nate, but he's supposed to be a nice guy, but it's just, I don't know. I didn't like him. I like the background characters who probably would have been cut to passing mentions if the book had been edited down, as I do agree that it desperately needed to be. I do not regret reading the book, partially because now I have context for a number of conversations to go around me. I doubt I will continue this series specifically. I will not take Sanderson off my list for this for reading this book. I enjoyed parts of it, but on the whole, I did not enjoy the experience of reading the book, and I was not deeply impressed, especially since I already had very high expectations from Sanderson because of people's recommendations and because I really loved Arithmetist and Elantris. Problem is, I'm years out from reading Elantris, so I couldn't tell you why I loved that book. So this is sadly another bust, guys. It didn't work for us.
Yeah.
And I will not stop you from stop you from reading Sanderson. I will not stop you from reading Mistborn. It can be a lot of fun if that's your jam. It's just not our jam. Super.
I want to be very clear about something. I don't blame the people who recommended this book to us at all. That's not what the book club thing is about. You make your recommendation and you cross your fingers and see what happens.
That's what I do every time I recommend anything to Brian, and I don't think I've scored a hit on anything for him. He was not offended by Howl's Moving Castle, but he didn't care for it. You know?
And she, yeah, and yet I still take suggestions from Leslie. So feel free to jump in and make new suggestions and that kind of thing. And if you're one of the ones who recommended this book, don't feel bad. Okay, that's part of what this process is discovering books that we like and don't like, and coming to terms with which ones those are, and where to go next. From that. Like, okay, so I know I don't need to read the rest of the Mistborn series. I can cross that batch off. That's fine. That's just a me thing. If you love the Mistborn series, please continue to love the Mistborn series. That's all up to you. It appeals to you and your tastes, and that's fine.
And you know what? Brian doesn't stop liking you because you like things he doesn't like. Otherwise, he would not like me, friends.
There you go.
Because I like a lot of stuff that he just does not stomach well.
That's right. That's right.
Because I'm a child. And I do not. Okay. Just to bring the tone of the show down one more trick. There is no reason you should ever be ashamed of enjoying something as long as you're not hurting someone else.
Right.
I own all 3 High School Musical movies. I'm not ashamed of that.
Yeah.
Brian might be breaking a little.
Other people are ashamed for her, but she's
Everybody's got something that they know is just ridiculous. I just happen to have a lot of it.
Right.
Like Hudson Hawk.
I would like a better book to read this time. A better book for me to read.
Well, you know what? I indirectly picked that last one.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it's all up to you now. Let's do something different.
Okay, I'm working on it. Because we didn't plan this part ahead of time.
Yeah, no, I thought about that when we were sitting down, and I was wandering off because I didn't finish my tea and I lost my headset, and I'm just a mess. In the meantime, I made up for having read Mistborn and not being particularly tickled by reading all of the Bunnicula books that I own, which is 1 through 5. Apparently, there's a 6th that I never knew existed.
Oh, that's nice.
I love.
Did I tell you? Did you see my picture about the Die Hard coloring and activity book that I found up?
Yes. Oh my gosh, why does that exist? You need lots of reds and oranges for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Reds, orange. Yeah, that's what those. If you had to pick 4 colors that would come with that coloring book, it'd be red, orange, yellow, and gray.
Yes.
That covers 90% of the movie.
I'm going to make a radical suggestion. Actually, somebody else has made a radical suggestion, and I'm just going to take him up on it. Are you ready for this?
No. Yes.
Okay.
Go.
Tristan suggested The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin.
The 5th Season. I'm sorry, I go straight to The Fifth Element.
Yeah. It is. I think part of a series. It appears to be, but
we can't get away from that. Apparently.
Apparently not. Apparently that's all science fiction fantasy rights anymore. Is parts of series.
And oh my gosh, doesn't that just not settle well?
Yeah.
We're not having that conversation because I'll just be grumpy about it again.
No. So we're going to try The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. I would tell you what this book is about, but I do not have it in my hands right at the moment, having only just made the decision. Right. Let me see here. This is what Amazon says about it. The season of endings has begun. It starts with a great red rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that blots out the sun. This sounds familiar already.
Had sun.
Yeah. It starts with death, with a murdered son and a missing daughter. It starts with betrayal and long dormant wounds rising up to fester. This is the stillness, a land long familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon, and where there is no mercy.
Its writing better be good, because I'm so not interested in its premise. I'm sorry, I get tired of the big, sweeping...
Yeah.
Whatever. And that is something that's really big in Mistborn, is the world was broken and supposedly saved, and then you get the full reveal of that it wasn't saved and how it wasn't saved. The premise of Mistborn, Word of God, which means Sanderson himself said this, was he wanted to create a world where they were going to save it, but then the bad guy won. And that's how you got the slave race. That's how you got the aristocrats. That's how you got the Steel Inquisitors with the pegs through their heads. And that's how you got the Lord Ruler, who is, the immortal Lord Ruler.
Sure. She has been, N.K. Jemisin has been nominated for the Hugo and Nebula Awards. Her novels have been nominated for collectively the Hugo, the Nebula, the Tiptree, the Crawford, the Gemmell, and a bunch of others, apparently.
It's apparently a trilogy.
Yeah.
3-book series.
Won the Hugo Award for 2016, and its sequel took the 2017. So that,
what exactly is the Hugo Award for?
It's for science fiction and fantasy novels.
Okay, full novels?
I believe so. Let me double check here. There. That's my memory at work. The Hugo Awards are a set of literary awards given annually for the best science fiction or fantasy works and achievements of the previous year. They are named after Hugo Gemsbach, the founder of the pioneering science fiction magazine Amazing Stories, and were officially named the Science Fiction Achievement Awards until 1992.
Because I know I know a number of authors. Like I can remember people having been saying so-and-so is a Hugo nominated, Hugo Award winner. And I never bothered to learn what the Hugo is actually for.
No, but it's just it's a very well-regarded award.
Yes.
So we might be on safe ground here. Although probably Sanderson also won a Hugo.
I feel like yes.
You feel like yes.
I'm currently scrolling through lists of winners and looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
I see Scalzi.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. N.K. Jemisin. Apparently won 3 years running.
Well, there you go. That's all 3 books in the trilogy.
Uh-huh. Jim Butcher, Naomi Novik, Robert Jordan, with Sanderson for when Sanderson took over after Jordan had died. Martin, as in George R.R.
Oh, not Dean.
Here's N.K. Jemisin nominated higher up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Cory Doctorow.
So she's in pretty good company.
Yeah, not bad company.
Right. So we're going to try that. We're going to try the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, and I will attempt to read the entire thing as I am supposed to.
All right, my vote next time. Let's do something that's not science fiction, fantasy, or actually is just nonfiction.
Okay, that means you have to pick it.
Son of crap. Help me, listeners. He finds too many books independently. I don't know how to suggest things.
Yeah. You're on your own there. If they can write in and help you figure it out, then they ought to do so in the comments.
I will ask them to kindly do so. And I will also say I will happily continue the discussion about Mistborn since I did finish it. I would like to understand why people love it so much, because when I ended up talking to my husband about why he is a massive Sanderson fan, owns all of them, has read all of them, his responses as to why he likes Sanderson are very anomalous and for the most part are not specific books. So I asked him about Mistborn. He's like, yeah, it's pretty high on the list. And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, but I like the second set. Like there's the first set in this world, and then there's, I guess, as things get I don't know, an industrial boom or something that is more Western-like, another set. So I don't know. I'd like to understand. I won't agree with you, but I'd like to understand.
All right.
So I'm still open for discussion. I don't know when this is going out, but
yeah, it'll go out next week.
Okay, this will go out next week, apparently. Because I know it's not going out today, because today is release day.
No, there is no way it's going out today.
Right.
Yeah. So
we got a book.
This has led to a fairly short show. But
I mean, we can talk about Bunnicula. I know you've read that.
Oh dear. Do you know when I read Bunnicula?
Would it be a long time ago?
It would be a long time ago.
It's hard to tell since you actually retroactively rated a lot of books on Goodreads.
Yeah, I know.
I'm rating them as I go.
They kept throwing suggestions at me that I had read already. I don't know what to do about that.
That's true. That's fair. That's whatever you're talking about there for you.
Anyway, I'm going to draw this particular discussion to a close, and we can all say there is a place we have been, and then we'll just move on.
A bridge we have crossed.
A rite of passage. I'm just looking at the actual good books that we've got in our list of 6. We're batting 500. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. I take it back. We're batting under 500. We're batting 2-6, whatever that is.
So
30 or 40%.
We could just also take a suggestion and reread something we know we like. Would that be cheating?
What? That's not how you discover new books to read.
It is if not everybody's reread it, or not everybody has read it. Not everybody's rereading. I don't know. Whatever. We're reading the fifth season by Jemisin.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is our experience with Mistborn. I can highly recommend that you go read Quite Ugly One Morning, and
I recommend Holiday Inn.
Okay,
it'll take you like 45 minutes.
Awesome. Awesome. I will therefore see many of you next week, and Leslie will be back next month, where she will once again try to moderate my opinions with reasonableness.
Or something like it.
Or something like it. You folks have fun, and happy Halloween from all of us to all of you. We will see you next time.